motivations. But I wonder for those millions of young Voltarians who have to rely only on what they are told or what they have read in books, how are they making sense of all that has unfolded and still unfolding in a region they call home? It was a prominent lawyer and member of the Council of State, a prominent indigene of the Volta region himself, Sam Okujeto, who this week told me the part of the problem is the distortion of history.
We are not teaching history any longer in the schools the way it should be taught. And this is part of the level of ignorance where people are being led to criminal conduct and action because they don't even understand the history of the country that we occupy now called Ghana. So we should reintroduce compulsorily the study of history in our schools, from primary all the way up. We have to teach our people history.
So, I wonder, if you are a young person, you come from the Volta region, you must have a certain sense of whether you're making sense of what is happening today. And that's a conversation we want to have because it's really about the youth. And if you check, by the way, we've been doing some social media scouting just to get a sense of how this is playing out on social media, because that's where the young people really are. And you find that the Western Togoland movement has a Facebook page with 4,900 members. 70-year-olds, etc., don't normally like to play so much on social media. It possibly will tell you that there's a young, growing core base that either sympathize, but the question that, of course, Samokujito had raised is, if indeed they sympathize, on what basis? Do they really understand the history? Or is they're feeding into the distortions? I want to tap into that, get a sense of what the young Voltarian makes of this. Wherever you are tonight, especially if you're a young Voltarian or come from there, have you called your parents yet to find out what is this really about? Or are you reading about this? And where are you getting that information from? 055-1111-997 is a WhatsApp line you want to get in touch using. And I have some very interesting young men and woman connecting with me in the studio and Zoom all across. Julius is a member of the Volta Region Students Association, University of Ghana, and connects in the studio. Hello, Julius.
Hello.
I'm grateful that you could join me. Princess is a young Voltarian and a university graduate. Hello, Princess.
Hi, Evans.
Great to have you, Princess. Ernest is a KNUSU student who lives in the Volta region in Ho, to be very, very specific. And by the way, Ho is part of the territory that the Western Togoland secessionists believe that belongs to that part of independent Togoland. And so it's interesting to hear his views. Ernest is connecting via Zoom. Hello, Ernest. If you can hear me, just say hi. Also, Divine Adam also connects with us in the studio. We are delighted to be joined by Tenasuk Bedema. He's a senior citizen. He is over 70 years old. When you have young people meeting to have a conversation that is steeped in history, it's good to have one old citizen to join, a senior citizen to join, so they shepherd the conversation, including myself, by the way, because he's lived through it for real. Jonas will also join us. He's also a young member of those coming up in the Volta region, and will also speak to us with his thoughts. Look, gentlemen and lady, thank you very much for connecting here on Ghana Connect. I want to start with you, Princess, right? How have you reacted to all this? Which part of the Volta region do you come from?
Well, I'm a Tongu from Mafi Adidome.
Okay, so that is like the heart of this, because one person died in Tong, right?
Yes.
This week. And so when does you have parents living there, or they are in Accra, or they are relatives?
My parents here in Accra, but we visit there regularly.
Okay, so this week, what have you made of all this? How have you reacted to this?
Well, I don't know, I'm in a fine line between livid and disappointed.
Why?
Yeah, I'm angry because this is no cause for violence, especially when the whole world is fighting against COVID-19 and we are trying so hard to deal with racism. You come up with sections in the Volta region when you don't even know your stuff. You don't even have facts, and you're not taking the right actions to make your voice heard, even if you have a voice. So that's what makes me livid, and I'm disappointed because it's just there's a stereotype about we Ewas that we are fighting so hard to clear and then bring down amongst our fellow Ghanaians, and then you come up with this. This only builds up the stereotype and makes it worse than it's already been. So that's where I am right now.
Okay, that's an interesting first few words. Julius, do you agree?
Hello.
I agree with her, and I find it very appalling as well, especially in times like this when nationhood should be the predominant factor in our conversations. And looking at the fact that it has gone to the very core of society. I grew up in the Volta region, and there is this perception that the entirety of the Volta region participated in the plebiscite that led to the formation of Ghana at that point in time, which is sort of a misconception, because the part of Volta region I come from wasn't part of it. That is Ketu South, precisely at Dafiano, was never part of that exercise. But it will surprise you that even people from that part of it believe that they were part of the process. And we need re-education of people for them to identify that no, Gold Coast existed, and it was just a small section of the Volta region that participated. And if actually there is the need for that small section to actually part their ways from Ghana, which I think there isn't.
Okay, so two like-minded views. Adam, which part of the Volta region you come from?
Well, I'm from Ho.
Okay, so same part of the territory that they're claiming, by the way.
Yes.
As part of the Western Togoland. What's
Correct.
been your reaction this week? Do you have relatives there?
Yes, I frequent Ho
Okay.
almost every other month.
Okay.
I am very sad about the situation, because at the core of what is happening, you realize that there is a lot of ignorance, and that space that has been created because of ignorance is being filled up by these very, very wicked elements who are trying to tear the region apart.
Okay.
I think that if we had taken our history lessons in a more holistic manner, because growing up, what I was taught in basic school was that there was a plebiscite in 1956 prior to Ghana gaining independence, and what is now known as the Volta region was then known as Transvolta Togoland. The people participated in a plebiscite and decided to join Ghana. It has been found that that is incorrect, because what you have as the Volta region now is not synonymous with what you had then as the UN Trust Territory of British Togoland. The British Togoland spanned the entire area from the whole Adaklu area, Buem, Krachi, Dagomba, Mamprusi, Gonja,
all the way to the
north. We were not taught that. You understand? So, if as a nation we do not take our history lessons very seriously, I don't know what goes into our curriculum preparations, but if we do not take our history lessons seriously, these are some of the, devastating effects that we begin to see in years to come.
Has anybody this week called their parents or spoken to their parents about this, or parents initiating a conversation? And I wonder, you have?
I had a
You also have?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know what sort of conversation, for example, Princess?
Yeah, for me, my dad has actually sat me down and has educated me about what my friend here just said.
Adam.
Yeah, Adam just said that we were never part of the Togoland that was brought into Ghana after the plebiscite. He says we were in Gold Coast way back in the 18th century before Togoland and the plebiscite. And his father was alive at the time. He didn't have to vote. Meaning there was no need for him to vote because he was already in Gold Coast, now Ghana. So, like Adam said, there has been no education, very little education, and for a long time we have been teased about it. So I called my parents and they said, well, now you know who you are, you know where you come from. It's not about you, so be careful your utterances out there. But let's just hope that the government intervenes and then all the storm settles.
Okay,
Yeah.
Julius, you also had a conversation with any of your relatives?
Yeah, quite earlier. Because
this is before this recent incident.
Yes, because there was an earlier.
Yes. It's been happening since. I mean, the
think
first major one was in 2017. We saw it. When are you putting
I
down?
had that conversation,
Okay.
and in that conversation, I found out that the chiefs from Anglon to Aflao, that consists of Aflao traditional area, Sume traditional area, Kliko traditional area, and then Anglon itself, signed treaties with the British long in 1870s, before even there is the need for the other parts, that is the Ho and Hohwe areas, to join what is now the Volta region. So for someone to now claim that that entire territory belongs to a certain Transvolta Togo land and they are demanding independence is quite preposterous. And he has been of that opinion that there is
Your
no
dad?
way, yes,
Okay.
that there is no way the southern part especially is going to join that movement. So if you observe, the idea that it's an Ewe movement is not true.
Okay, it's true. I mean, this week I spoke to Samu Kujeto, senior citizen, member of the council. He makes the same thing about the Ewe conversation. He says, look, there's not everybody who's from the water is on Ewe,
Yeah.
for example,
true.
and that there are plenty other ethnic groups there. But when
the
you
Guanza,
immediately we say water region, everybody
think
thinks
they are Ewes.
everybody comes from that, but that isn't
And
true.
people even think all Ewes are exactly the same.
The
It's
same.
an
Yeah.
ethnicity with
One
different-
homogeneous
Yeah.
group of people.
It's
Yeah.
different. We Anglos are different from those who are in the Vedume areas.
Mhm.
And Ewes, since the 16th centuries, have never been able to form one nation of a sort with one united front. They've always been sort of
Segmented.
different. Yes, segmented. So even before the whites came, that segmentation was there. The treaty that made Anglo join the British territory is different from what the Somers signed. It's different from what the Aflawus signed. So if you go to the archives of the chiefs, you realize that one, Togi Adama signed the treaty, then Anglo Togi String signed the treaty. It's different. As compared to if you take, for example, Ashanti, it was always one nation. So the treaty would have been coming from Benshia, for example.
Yeah.
So Ewes have not been one group involved in any movement of this kind before, and it's not going to start now.
Okay, Adam, you also had a conversation.
Yes, I had a
With
conversation.
who? Your dad or your mom?
Both of them.
When?
That was over the weekend.
Oh, okay. So this must have been after the Friday's
After
major
Friday,
incident.
I
Okay.
went home
Where?
on
Who?
Dansoman.
You were, okay, Dansoman. Okay, okay.
And so we had a conversation, and my dad was very disturbed.
Why was he?
Disturbed because the region is already underdeveloped. This coming in would only lead to more underdevelopment. And he was also scared because, I mean, as Princess said, there is already this stereotype about Ewes as people who are inward looking and whatnot. I mean, in the wake of the attacks, you see certain people making certain tribalistic comments on social media, and it is very disturbing. And if you are an Ewe, it would come as a very painful thing to you. And so basically, that is what he was disturbed about. Number one, what this meant for the development of the region, which is already grappling with development issues. Number two, what this means for the peace and security of the country as a whole, taking into consideration the history of such movements around Africa. If you take the Biafra peoples of Nigeria, for instance, it wasn't a good fit for them, and so he was very much concerned about the region. And so that is the kind of conversation we had. We didn't dwell so deep into whether the Tone and Anglo Ewes were part of it, because he insists that even if they were part of it, a plebiscite has already been undertaken, a referendum,
and that settles the matter.
And that settles the matter. I mean, what are you talking about?
I mean, Princess, would you be surprised if I tell you that you're talking about young people, right?
Okay.
If you go onto the Facebook, for example, they set up a group and they have 4,900 members. And a lot of them, I see some of the videos they posted, young people who are holding megaphones in markets, preaching the secessionist agenda. I mean, if I tell you that this is happening and young people are fueling the youth, will you be surprised?
Well, I won't be surprised.
Okay.
We are young. We have so much energy, and we have so much time, and so we are gullible. We almost trust everyone that comes our way because we have the resources to go after them. As long as they're promising us jobs, as long as they're promising us money. Okay, so not that I support it, but I can understand
why.
I can understand what is going on, and it's unfortunate, and I don't know how long it's been going on. It seems as if it's just been simming up, and now it's burst out or it's boiled. Okay, and so although I'm not surprised, I do not support it, and I just want to say that young people, it's not about money, it's not about getting a job or feeding yourself hand to mouth. There's more to being a citizen of a country than just having money to feed on and then using your energy, wasting your energies on things like this.
Now, let me bring in Jonas. Jonas is joining us via Zoom. Hello, Jonas.
Hello.
Hi, Jonas Gameli. I'm grateful that you could join us. Also, a young person. How old are you, Jonas?
26 years old.
Okay, so pretty young. We are all learning. And tell me, so you've heard your colleagues speak about this. Where do you stand on this?
Before I come in, Julius, my brother Julius mentioned the treaty signed by the Anglos to join the Gold Coast, or which is Ghana. Let me remind Julius that the treaty signed wasn't agreement to join the Gold Coast. It was a business agreement signed between the Adan and that of the Anglo. And the treaty sign doesn't involve the overlord, which is the Omefia of Anglo. There's some group of people just gathered, then they signed that treaty. So it's a business agreement signed.
Yeah, I mean, but that is one of those, and I mentioned at the top, a lot of this is contested.
Yes.
What you're saying is contested by those who can produce and have produced evidence to show that that was a binding treaty. But your substantive point is? Yes, Jonas, yeah, go on.
Yeah. Right now, me particular, I'm for the movement. What is going on right now? If you look at the whole thing, it's a history. It's a history. It's a two land divided. It's a one land divided into two. I hope you're getting me. Hello.
And what when you say history, you're 26 years. Where are you getting that history from? Is it something you read or somebody told you?
Actually, I read it myself.
Where? And what did they say?
When I read it on the internet.
Aha. I mean, what source was this exactly? Is it you read it on WikiLeaks?
Yeah. I just searched for Western Togoland history, and I got it on the Google.
Okay, so did you go into finding out, checking this beyond just seeing it on the internet? Did you go to a library? Did you speak to a trained historian? Or you simply, because you saw it on the internet, you believed it?
Actually, when I saw it in the internet, I was also
Hello, Jonas. Yeah, go on. Okay, hello, Jonas. Okay, I don't seem to have. Yes, Jonas, go on.
Some documents they also used to update, and I'll be going to.
Jonas, stay with me. We're having challenges with the connection. We're trying to see if we can re-establish that. But that gives you a sense of, I guess, what Samuel Kujeto had said this week about the lack of understanding. So I've always wanted to find out, those who support this, young people who support, where are they getting their facts from? And yes, he said he just Googled and found it on the internet and believed it. I want to bring in senior citizen Tenasu Bedema. Joins us on the phone right now. Hello, hello, Mr. Bedema.
Yep.
I'm grateful that you could join us. You are the senior citizen. We are delighted that you could join us. You've heard the conversation of your children, and I'm definitely one of them because I understand you're over 70 years old. When you
actually 78.
Oh goodness me! Exactly why we need you in this conversation. So see this as having a chat now on the back of everything that has happened with your children and grandchildren. You've listened in and heard everything that has been said. What do you say to your children?
Well,
because you lived through it all.
Children are now my children are about, and only the youngest is 37, and they are old enough. I can refer them to read history or to read the documents also. But personally, we do not sit down as a family now to discuss these things. We are scattered. I have 3 children in Accra, I have 1 in Aplahu, and I'm here in Igbo. So we do not really get together to discuss politics. I'm not a politician, and I really don't know what to tell my children to divorce them from politics. They are growing up, and they will pick up the pieces themselves and decide as to what to do with them. But the fact is, this volta Togoland or what in Togoland.
Okay, Mr. Benema, forgive me. We are having a challenge with the connection. We are going to call you back, and hopefully we can get a better connection so we can hear your thoughts. But I want to come back to the studio. Julius, your reaction to your compatriot, your peer, Jonas earlier?
Yeah, I find it rather surprising that Jonas didn't come in with, information from sources that we could actually rely on. If I want to speak, for example, on the fact that the southern part of the Volta region, consisting from the Anglo traditional area down to Aflao traditional area, has not been part of any agreement whatsoever before, that is in the plebiscite, I would base it on the fact that in the archives, chieftaincy archives, if you go to the archives of the paramount chief of Sumer, for example, you would find those agreements right there. If you go to, say, Anglon, or even Adafian, where I come from, if you go to Togbia Jabli Anthony's palace, you will find those agreements which they have signed to join the British protectorate as far back as 1877, 1874, and all those times. That is long before the plebiscite. And if the areas that consist of Ho districts and then Hohwe district have not been that part of that agreement, they were under a German territory which was later handed over to the British as a mandate, were not part of that agreement. How then do you conclude that they were all together as one group and then were then handed over to Ghana as part of the state? You can't make that conclusion.
Julo, give me a second. I've just been joined again by Mr. Gbedema. He's lying the terrier to the bit. Hello, Mr. Gbedema. Oh, fantastic! Yes, hopefully it's better now. Yeah, you were speaking about what you've been telling your children on the back of what has happened.
Yes, I said my children and I are not together. We are scattered all over the place. So we hardly discuss politics. Whatever has happened is on individual basis. And I think I'm appalled at the development today of Western Togoland, and I don't think I support it. But to be honest with you, the way we have been treated, the Evans have been treated over the years, Kwame Nkrumah tried to really make Ghana a cohesive country. But after Nkrumah, what I have experienced personally is nothing to write home about. And I feel this is my homeland. I was born and bred here. I feel I'm more of a Ghanaian than a lot of other people who are shouting that I'm not a Ghanaian or the Evans are not Ghanaian. I was born and bred in Peje, in the southeastern part of or maybe almost northeastern part of Ghana. About 1 hour's drive from home. And my mother and father, my mother came from Achiavi, my father from Anyako. So, a typical Ghanaian. For people to be telling me in 2020 that I'm not Ghanaian is something I do not understand. And I don't really want to understand it. Because this is my homeland. I was born and bred here. I'm like a cat. My whiskers have been pulled and buried here. So my spirit, my soul is here in Ghana. But for some maybe teenagers or maybe middle-aged people to be telling me I'm not Ghanaian, where I am, they should be able to tell me. Number two, this problem has been brewing from our 1954. I was a teenager then. By 1955-56, when the plebiscite was done, I was in Peje. I was a young teenager. And I didn't understand that it was only done in the northern part of the then transition Poland. Keta, Angloga, Aflao, and Co were not part of the northern part of the Volta region. At that time, there was no Volta region. There was Volta Togoland. So there was nothing like that until around post-1957, when the Volta region was actually created by an act of parliament. So if Nkrumah thought the Evans were not part and parcel of Volta of Ghana, he would not have convinced them to join them to even vote for unification with Ghana. It was a very arduous task that the CPP had. And I remember my cousin, the late Komla Agbeli Godema, was the finance minister of Kwame Nkrumah's government then. They came to the territory to convince people to vote for them to unite with Ghana. If you came to convince people to unite with Ghana, it presupposes that they are independent or they have their own mind. Now you are soliciting their aid. Then for people to come around and say, "Oh, these guys are not Ghanaians," it beats my understanding.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a very interesting perspective. I mean, from a 70-year-old who's lived through this, saying still today in 2020 that this is my homeland. So I wonder, and when you hear the young people who say that, yeah, we should break away, and they are chanting and causing chaos, some of them, the young people we've seen in the videos, how do you feel about it? And have you had an opportunity to educate any of them?
Yes, I feel very bad about it, break away. Because I said, this is my home. This is my home. I don't know where else. And if those are saying, let's break away, where do we go? From what I hear, a lot of politicians in Ghana are saying that the Evans are not, we are not Ghanaian. So when we actually say that water is breaking away, where do we go? Are they going to push us into the sea? No. There will be trouble in Ghana. I bet you there will be trouble. See, one small boy can cause a lot of trouble for a nation. That is what we should learn. We must learn to coexist in this world of integration. Who wants to be separated from one another? We rather live and let live. The problem with that is development. The Volta regime has been denied development. And I don't blame the current government or the current people. I blame the British government also, because the only development they gave us was education. They didn't train us to be tradesmen. If you were tradesmen, you either work with the USC, GB Oliver, CFAO, or SCOA. That's all. Nothing to really write home about. So when you say you are going away now, you got to start from scratch. You got to start from scratch. And it's not easy starting a developmental work. You need cash, you need resources. We have the resources, especially human resources, but the natural resources and cash we don't have.
Yeah,
so we must approach this with some kind of caution.
Yeah, and Mr. Gbedema, kindly stay with me. I want to bring another young man, Jonas, who was with us earlier. Hello, Jonas. Can you hear me?
Yes, please, I can hear.
Jonas, do you? I don't know if you managed to listening to Mr. Gbedema at all.
Yes, please.
Okay, so this is a 70-year-old will pass as your grandfather. He's lived through the history that you said you read on the internet. He's telling you that what you are saying isn't right, doesn't reflect the history. He's lived through it. So you listen to someone as old as that with the history and he's lived through it. Doesn't that convince you that what you believe isn't what it is, and that you're probably following a wrong course?
No, please.
I see. Okay, why do you say that?
Because he made mention the politician saying we are not Ghanaian. What made that person to come in with that statement that the Voltarians are not Ghanaian?
Well, that is more of, and KTM had denied that he said that, by the way. That's a different conversation, but it's more of the politics of the voter registration, etc. We're having a conversation about the history and the geography of the area, which is what you said you read on the internet, right? I mean, so I'm wondering, having listened to somebody who lived through that period, who say to you that that is really not what it is, doesn't that change your? Shouldn't that change your perspective?
No, please.
Okay, well, stay with me still, Jonas. Princess.
Well, I don't even know how to start, because there's so many things running through my mind. I only agree with Mr. Gbedema that we have been cheated somehow. We haven't seen much development.
With development,
yeah, exactly. You look at the fact that during the construction of the Akosombo Dam, our lands were taken over. But some people say our grandfathers' cocoa farms are under that water. Until today, we haven't had any compensation or any form of development in our region for what happened. And we can hit our chest and say we are contributing to electricity in Ghana via the Akosombo Dam.
Yeah.
You understand? So we want development, and people are speaking from a place of pain. People have experienced pain. Some people's families couldn't thrive anymore after these developments in their family. For that matter, they are in pain and they really want development. So anyone listening, especially our politicians, the government officials, we do need development in our area. But if I'm to speak for myself, and I believe for many other well-meaning Voltarians or many other well-meaning Ewes, we don't want to do it violently. We definitely would want to petition the right people. I would like to ask Jonas as well, that does he know what it takes to be a country? Does he know what it means to be a country? What plans do they even have? Currently, if we decide to say, okay, we won't give you electricity again, take the land we say is yours, can they survive for even 2 days if we say we'll not supply them water again?
Do you want Jonas to answer that question?
I really would like for him to answer that.
Jonas, this is your peer, Princess, asking the question. If you break away right now and everything that you have is no longer there, how do you survive? Hello, Jonas, can you hear me?
We will surely survive.
How?
Yes, I can hear.
How?
We will surely survive because one, she made mention the electricity. That Akosobo Dam is part of the Western Togoland we are talking about.
I see. So his point is, so what? You're going to take the Akosobo Dam with you?
Exactly.
Goodness me. I mean, so can't you see how ridiculous it sounds that you're going to take Akosomo? I mean, Jonas, seriously. I mean, can't you see how ridiculous it sounds when, so the things you've been reading on the internet, I mean, the things you've been reading, they actually tell you that it's okay, that what you're saying is actually practical, that there's actually a solution there, that somehow you'll be allowed to take the Akosomo down with you. Aren't you living a fantasy world? 26-year-old Jonas.
Sometimes I know maybe it can be possible though. But the question I keep on asking myself is, why that the Volta region, we are still like the other regions have been developed, and why that the among the 16 regions or among the 10 regions in Ghana, the Volta region is still under undeveloped.
Okay, so that is a different conversation, right? I mean, about the development. I hear that. But to be fair, there are many parts of this great country of ours called Ghana who can also make the strong claim that it's also underdeveloped. Go to the north. I mean, go to the north. They will tell the same story that they've also been underdeveloped. In fact, if you look at the Human Development Index, that will tell you which regions and districts are the poorest. A lot of the poorest parts of this country, up north, sometimes in the central region, you find some, of course, in the Volta region. So everybody else in Ghana, wherever they come from, can lay claim to that. And so that I guess my point is, shouldn't be a basis to say that because I have not been developed, so I should break away. I mean, and then let me bring you in here. When I put a point to him about how ridiculous it sounds, in answering, Princess asked the question. Princess, what's your rebuttal to reaction to it?
Answered the question. It's ridiculous. That is nothing but ridiculous, and it doesn't fall any short of ridiculous. I mean, how can you survive as a nation with Akosomo Dam? How will you take Akosomo Dam?
To Western Togoland.
Exactly. How will you take Akosomo Dam to Western Togoland? You know, how will you be represented at the UN? What would you do? I want Jonas to tell us what plan they have put together, since he is in support of it. And I really would like to appeal to Jonas and say that, Jonas, I think go for facts. Don't the internet, anyone at all can put anything on the internet. Okay, so go speak to the elderly people, get some oral history, get some written history, put it together and make meaning out of it. And when you do that, find a way of petitioning the right people. If it's the AU, if it's ECOWAS, I mean, I dare say that the Queen of England, she's still alive, you know, the one who finally went through all the processes. She's still alive. So if you want to write to her, go ahead and do that. We are in a free world now, and everyone's, view is heard. So you can do it the right way, but to say we are taking it by force, if you start a country by force, you will maintain the country by force. Yeah. You have to continue beating and killing people to maintain the country.
Adam.
All right. I want to ask. I don't know if Jonas.
He's still on his listen.
So I want to ask Jonas, do you agree with the founding president of this country that Africa must be united? I want an answer to that. I want to know your thoughts on that.
Yes, I agreed with you.
So, if you agree with the concept or with the principle that Africa must unite, why then do you want further balkanization of this already small and fragile state of Ghana, I mean, it doesn't serve any purpose. Because if you agree that Africa must unite, a further division of a small country like Ghana is rather retrogressive.
Ghana is actually very, very small.
Ghana is a very small country.
We find Nigerians laughing at us every time.
And so, my brother Jonas, right? Yeah. Jonas, I am pleading with you. Go online. I mean, if you want, you can share your contact details with us. We can help you with documentation, okay, to let you know about the real history of this entire movement. Now, let me tell you, the people who are fomenting this do not have any good thing up their sleeves. It would interest you to know the kind of petty reasons why people fuel these kind of movements. I mean, if you go to South Sudan, if you go to Eritrea, I mean, look at Eritrea. Eritrea succeeded from Ethiopia, and since then, it has never been a good thing for them. We do, I mean, in Africa, you do not have seceding states succeeding. Look at South Sudan. The human rights abuses that the South Sudanese were complaining about is worse off, even though they are supposedly independent now. And so we've come too far as a nation. We've become too assimilated. We've become too comfortable with the state of Ghana to say that we are going back to start over the construction and building of an entirely new identity.
Okay, let me bring in
Jonas. We beg you.
Yeah, I think that it's high time we deal with the historical aspect of it.
I think that's what the problem is.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
It's just clear to me, and now I understand why Samokujetu was making the point that the problem is the teaching of history.
Because you know, the distorted history actually leaves that vulnerability for disgruntled people who feel that they've been cheated, they've not been part of the development process, that they are not getting their fair share of the national cake and all that. It leaves that vacuum for those people to be exploited, especially now that they are ignorant. It's easy for someone who has a certain agenda to now use that as a propaganda tool to lure those people into the movement. If you speak to most of the people who are part of this, Western Togoland independence agenda, you would realize that, a correlation exists. They are disgruntled about the system, and then they feel they've been cheated, and they are ignorant about the fact that they've already been part of Ghana for a long time. Because if someone who is an Anglon should be on radio and now be saying that he belongs to this movement and he wants this movement to succeed, whereas Anglons have never even been part of the region that took part in the plebiscite, you realize that no, it's those combinations that radicalize the person to sort of move in for this kind of movement, and it's high time we deal with it from the head.
I want to bring in Mr. Gbedema for his final words. Mr. Gbedema, you've heard a bit more. At least now you know that at least some of the young people supporting this are not getting their information from the right sources. It appears that people are being misled into taking up arms and trying to break away your lovely region. Finally, give me your final thoughts. If you get an opportunity to speak to a young person like Jonas, what will you tell him? What would you tell him?
I was actually intrigued and actually scandalized when Jonas said that we are going to break away and take that also put up with that. I also heard someone saying that our fathers or great grandfathers took farms and so are in the lake, under the lake. Is that the reason why we should take the lake with us or the dam with us? We should negotiate, we should dialogue. When it comes to separation from an entity, what you have is what you negotiate with. So if we want to take the water down, and I know we contributed a lot to that water, not only the Ashantis or the other Ghanaians, but we as Evans also do. And I can categorically say that my cousin, the late K. Egbedema, was very, very instrumental in resourcing funds for the creation of Akosombo Dam. Look at the humiliation he was given when he went to the U.S. It was only the president of the U.S., Eisenhower, and his vice president, Nixon, who actually pacified him by taking him to breakfast and knowing that he was an important person. If we in Ghana do not realize it, it's unfortunate. The Volta region has a lot of resources. in any field. So we must not just say we are going away. If we go away, all that, we may suffer a little. But let us dialogue and see what is out. I believe in unity. You say Africa must unite. Is it possible? Nkrumah must be actually turning his grave at what is happening these days in Sudan, in Eritrea, like you mentioned. And Rwanda, we had a lot of genocide here. What happened? How can we go forward? African Union, I know they have failed us. African Union have failed us. ECOWAS is not working. Nigeria is closing down all here now. What are we done with it?
Mr. Gbedema, thank you very much for joining us. Our senior citizen sitting in the conversation with his children and possibly grandchildren in this conversation. There are many of you joining us on social media. I want to hear from you now. Yeah, Manuel, what messages are you getting?
Well, Evans, a few of the messages that are coming through. This one says that this issue must be handled sensitively. It is rather unfortunate that it's being handled roughly. What should rather be done should be peaceful deliberation with the groups involved. There's never a smoke without fire. This should be handled by government with the least there will be unpleasant outcomes. More, ever since independence, the UP tradition, whose grandchild is the NPP, is at the throat of all ethnic groupings in Ghana. Well, more now, though there has always been blatant treatment to we Voltarians as second fiddles by some political elites, I felt ashamed of what some of our brothers are doing to get independence as Western Togo.
Yeah, now I see that a lot of politics at play also. People are breeding politics into this. I get that, but at this moment, as Adam says, it's unity that matters. So once you throw in a politics, it makes it even worse. Definitely. It just provides fuel for this to explode. Yeah, what else are people saying?
Well, this one is from Reindorf from Akachi in the Volta region, and he says that majority of the Voltarians have no idea of this secessionist group, and moreover, the chiefs in the region do not support what is going on. So my question is, who are these people fighting for this independence? Where are they coming from? Volta region is part of Ghana, and that's boldened. The government should arrest and punish those people. Well, they are just trying to bring misunderstanding. This is election year, and we need peace before, during, and after the election. Reindorf from Akachi in the Volta region, Evans.
I want to take a final thought from you, Princess. Let me start with you. So, I mean, for you, how should this be addressed? Because I see the videos on the Western Togoland secessionist page, and all the people I've seen they are training young people. So, what would you recommend?
Well, I'll first of all recommend education.
Okay.
Education. I really feel like for some of us that have the privilege of the right information, we have to come together and educate our brothers and sisters who have not had access to this information. But for now, because they are being violent, we have to meet them out with a higher violence, in quotes.
Okay, I mean, just let the state agencies deal with it. I mean, with the law.
Exactly, with the law, exactly. So, go get them, arrest them, and let there be peace and calm in the region. And our chiefs and younger people who have had access to good information will educate the rest of the people.
Okay, yeah. What would you say?
I want to speak to generally fellow Ghanaians that EWES are not initiating a nationalist movement, sort of. So wherever you are in Ghana, if you have that kind of perception that EWES are teaming up to depart from Ghana, and for that matter, you have to treat them differently from other Ghanaians. I'm speaking directly to somebody right now. You should know that EWES have always been Ghanaian, and they will always be Ghanaian. Yeah. So under no circumstance whatsoever should people treat EWES differently because you have this perception that they were not Ghanaians, they later joined and all those things. And that is why everyone must take time. If only EWES go and learn the history and the others don't, they will continue to treat them that way. So everyone should now inform themselves about what this is about, so that we all get to live harmoniously as Ghanaians.
Yeah, Adam.
All right. I think in my opening statement, I mentioned that at the core of this is the failure of our education at the basic level. Yeah. Because growing up, I learned that what is now known as the Volta region was then the British Togoland.
Some of us, we learned, but we forgot. I've forgotten. Okay. I have to go and read it all over this week.
I think what we need to do is to have a very serious and holistic review of our entire curriculum.
Yeah, and then put in some good
and
history.
Then put in some
not skewed.
very,
I mean, one that is
history, not skewed
objective
history,
and
not half truths.
Yeah.
Not false statements.
Yeah.
That is very, very, very important.
One last thing I'd like to say is that we are not down-throated people. Our language is actually international. I tell people this in the lab, but I say we speak Ewe in Togo, we speak Ewe in Benin, and some parts of Nigeria. And so we are out there. We are many, and definitely unity will push us forward.
Okay, thank you very much. Up next is the Bloods with Thirsty.